In this episode of EcoSense for Living, we discover how scientists help unravel bear mysteries using DNA and the same techniques as crime labs. Then, we separate the facts from the fears about our wild next-door neighbors, the coyotes. Great Smoky Mountains National Park has more visitors than any of our other national parks, and black bears are their main attraction.
If you surveyed some of the 10 million visitors who came to Great Smoky Mountains National Park last year and said, why did you come, what did you hope to see? Black bear is going to be really high on the list.
Well, the park is over 500,000 acres in size, so there's a lot of space for bears. And we have 1,600 bears here in the park. Most of those bears are wild bears, what we would refer to as having wild behavior, meaning they're afraid of us. They're afraid of us, they stay away from us, they stay away from our developed areas, they don't want anything to do with us.
Humans are going to be the #1 predator for a bear. And vehicle collisions, leaving garbage out, it's a death sentence for a bear. You know, the saying here in the Smokies especially is a fed bear is a dead bear.
What's the biggest misconception about the bears?
People grossly overestimate the weight of black bears. When somebody sees a female with black bears, they'll throw out numbers, 500 pounds, 300 pounds. And I think people are shocked that actually in the summertime, the average weight of that female is 100 pounds. What's unique about denning here is that a lot of the females in particular den in trees, very large, hollow trees. I think that's something that's kind of unique to bears in the Smokies as well.
Mom or the sow will actually send her cubs up a tree and use a tree as kind of a babysitter while she forages nearby. And so those cubs are still nursing and they're just waiting on mom, you know, and they're safe up in a tree.
During years with plentiful nuts and berries, bears thrive. But when food is scarce, bears struggle and cubs are more likely to be lost or orphaned.
Nature can be very cruel, but it's just how life in the wild works.
A lot of those orphaned animals were picked up in communities outside the park and then taken to the Appalachian Bear Rescue.
Basically what we do is we take care of injured and orphaned bear cubs less than 2 years of age. We get them back to a healthy weight and get them back to the wild. Our bears come from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We've also received them from other states throughout the Southeast and other national parks as well. All of our bears by our permit are less than 2 years of age.
So do you have to bottle feed some of them, or are they past that stage?
Unfortunately, some of them will have to be bottle fed. Our main focus and goal is to get these bears back to the wild. And bears are such an intelligent species that, you really have to be careful how you do that and how much you limit your contact, down to how you handle them and which way you face them while you bottle feed. Before we release a bear back to the wild, there's a ton of things that has to go into consideration. They all have initial vet checks, and then we want to get those bears back to the vet to make sure that everything's like it's supposed to be. And then obviously make sure they're up to a healthy weight. And we want to make sure that they're being released in areas where they will have access to food sources and away from human dwellings.
So what's a bear jam?
Bear jams happen here all the time, first of all. We have bear jams, we have elk jams, we have deer jams, we have all kinds of jams. Turkey jams, we have those even. So that's an animal that's relatively close to the road that somebody sees and everybody stops. And so you get a big pileup of traffic. Bears are probably the worst. Everybody comes here to see a bear.
The main issue is to take care of human behavior, and then the bear behavior can be managed.
We still have people that are leaving their food out carelessly, not putting their food and garbage away. We have 120 tons of trash in the month of July alone. May, June, and July are our biggest nuisance bear issues, so to speak. 300 tons of trash in those 3 months combined. The study we're doing now is a study to look at nuisance bear behavior, those bears that show up in our campgrounds and picnic areas. If they go from grill to grill to grill or garbage can to garbage can to garbage can and get a food reward, they've just been rewarded for that behavior. And it's kind of like training your dog. When your dog does a certain behavior, you give it a food reward, it repeats that behavior. Same thing with bears. The bears that concern me the most are the bears that follow people for long periods of time, that stalk people for long periods of time. Most people are afraid of that bear that bluff charges them. You know, the female bear with the cub, she's notorious for bluff charging. She'll come at you, you know, she'll pop her jaws and be slapping the ground. And that's a defensive response. What she is telling you is you're too close, back up. That's what bluff charges mean. And so that behavior is kind of easy to interpret.
If a bear turns toward you and starts following you, you move off and it continues to follow you. It's not making any display. It's not huffing. It's not pounding. It's not doing anything other than just following you. And no matter how many times you change directions, it keeps coming towards you, then that is not defensive behavior, and it may be predatory.
One of the things I think that has happened with us as managers is we have actually become more aware of what predatory behavior looks like. We've had an 8-year-old boy attacked on a trail. He was down in the creek just like this, and the bear took him down, and his dad physically pulled the bear off, and the boy took off running, and the dad let go of the bear and boom, took the boy down a second time. That bear was focused on that child and predatory in nature.
Throw rocks, throw sticks. Let the bear know that it doesn't need to be messing with you because, you know, that's going to be a mistake. And if a bear ignores all of that and actually does come and contact a person, a black bear, you never play dead. You fight. Because at that point, the only reason the bear would be on you is that it regards you as prey.
The thing is with bear attacks is they are very rare. You're much more likely to get killed here on 441 driving from here to Cherokee than you are to be attacked and killed by a bear.
On the rare occasion when a bear does attack, wildlife managers can use forensic science to gather evidence at the scene.
If you have a bear attack, you want to basically put a point on the map of where that attack occurred, draw a circle around it, and eliminate any bear that's in that circle. Make sure you got the right one. We wanted to be able to say with confidence that we've got the right bear, and so we were looking at DNA as a tool to do that.
At nearby Western Carolina University, scientists test bear DNA from items at the scene of an attack.
One of the park biologists called me and said there had been an attack, and he drove all of the items down to the lab, and we took samples from everything, a clipping for the book, a clipping from the stuff sack, and swabbed the bite marks, and then we proceeded with our protocol. When we're looking at these evidence samples, it can be very similar to a human crime scene. We have specialized protocols to deal with trace DNA that might be left at a human perpetrated crime scene. But what might make it a little bit easier is that the bear isn't necessarily as concerned with leaving behind evidence as a human perpetrator would be, such as taking a bite out of the book. Actually, the book was the smoking gun for us.
We're trying to be much more proactive in how we manage people and manage bears. And we defined, you know, a campground, a picnic area, park headquarters as our space. We don't want that bear to have any kind of food reward. We want it to be a negative experience, not a positive experience, because we know where the food thing leads to. It eventually leads to either euthanizing the bear or moving the bear, property damage, injury to people. So we're trying to mitigate that by being proactive rather than reactive. Are we 100% successful? No. We got 10 million people, 1,600 bears. You're going to have human-bear interactions. It's just going to happen. 10 million people bring a lot of trash.
Is there too much pressure on this park, do you think?
You know, the parks are both for people and for wildlife, and that's actually, I think we struggle with that sometimes. If you close a campsite because of bear activity, then people get upset. If you euthanize a bear because it injured somebody, then people get upset for that too. So sometimes you got to be thick-skinned as being a bear biologist.
The Chimneys picnic area is a popular stop among park visitors. It's also become a frequent stop for a female tagged black bear looking for picnic leftovers. This is a concern for park biologists.
We have a collared female in this area that we've been trying to catch, hence the bear trap in the parking lot. She comes in here to seek human food and garbage. So we're trying to catch her again, and then we'll make a determination of what we want to do, if we want to relocate her or if we want to give her some more adversive training. The bear will climb in, and one thing about bears is they're very particular about where they step, so they don't like things that are unlevel or that, you know, it's kind of like us. When we cross a stream, if we step on a rock that moves, what do? We back up. So we make sure everything is very stable and sturdy, so when she steps on it, it doesn't move at all. And what she'll do is she will grab this bait bag. The rest of this is just paper garbage. She will pull this bait.
Done.
Yep, then you got a bear in a cage. The difficult part is me getting out of here. The bad part about Chimneys is that this female has a really small home range. And it's kind of like you living in a really small house and me telling you you can't go through the living room to get to the kitchen. You have to go around. Let's go ahead and see if we can hear her. Every caller has a unique frequency that's obviously highly confidential because we don't want other people to track her down. So I will tune in my receiver to her radio frequency and see if she is close. And we kind of do this by our cardinals, so north, south, east, and west. And when the beep gets louder, that's the direction that she is in. There she is. Hear the beep? I can just barely pick her up. So she is probably a half a mile or more up the drainage.
So the one we're out here looking for, are you going to relocate it or let her stay in this area?
It depends on her behavior. If she continues to persist into this picnic area, we will be forced to relocate her. But if she keeps coming in and getting a positive food reward, say if she came in last night at 12 o'clock and got a positive food reward, she's gonna go back up in the woods and sleep, and then she's gonna wake up hungry, because bears are always hungry, and she's gonna come in an hour earlier. So tonight she'll be in at 11. Tomorrow night she'll be in at 10. So on, and so forth until you get to where she's standing on a picnic table 3 weeks down the road at lunchtime.
So what do you think is the biggest misconception about bears?
The biggest misconception is probably that bears are inherently dangerous. Bears, they are a predator and they are a danger to us, but people are typically the ones that create that danger for themselves. They want to get, you know, the selfie shot with their phone. And, you know, when I get this close, you start going backing up. Well, that's exactly what a bear wants to do. They want their space, and people don't respect that.
How do we give bears a safe and respectful distance? 50 yards or about half a football field?
If you would, just take off down the road there, and I'll stand here and range you and let you know when you're at 50 yards.
Still?
She is 20 yards right there.
We're there yet?
You're halfway there.
What?
She just hit 30, 40. All right, stop right there.
Here?
That is actually 50 yards right there.
So how far do you think she is from here?
Well, I know what her home range is, and it's really small. I mean, she literally lives between the two ridges that you see. It's really a 1.2 square mile home range.
If a bear becomes too comfortable hanging around humans, wildlife managers use negative contact to change their behavior.
Negative contact could be getting shot with a beanbag round, having a firecracker shot over in her direction, and it'd make a really loud noise and scare her out of the area.
If loud noises aren't enough, managers may have to use more physical contact.
This is a standard law enforcement taser that a police officer would use on a suspect. And so the charge, electrical charge and everything is exactly the same. Your body operates on an electrical system. So when you overload that system, what does it do? It just locks every muscle up and contracts every muscle at the same time. And so, and it's a 5-second ride.
That's giving me chills.
The exposure to the electricity is for 5 seconds. After that, the bear gets up and is right back to the normal state, and he is out of there.
So what's an example of when you've tasered a bear? What's the situation then?
We're only tasing bears that have collars on because I can see the response of the taser. So if I tasered a bear right here with a collar on, I could track the bear via the collar and see, did the bear come back to the area? Did the bear stay out of the area for a month, 2 weeks, a week, a day? You know,
so what's happened so far with the ones you've tasered?
It's been a 50-50 percentage. For instance, this bear, 436, has been tased, and she came right back to the same place. The problem with that is that she is an adult female, and they are the most difficult bears to manage, in my opinion, because she has such a small home range versus a larger male bear that has a 10 square mile home range. He can just go over the ridge, where she has never been over that ridge.
But her range is so small because she has cubs, or why is her range so small?
Her range is small because this is the habitat that she needs to produce her cubs successfully year after year. And she has everything she needs here. The problem is that it just happens to be near a human area.
So she'll get relocated?
She will get relocated.
Not euthanized because she hasn't
Absolutely
hurt
not.
anybody. Okay.
You seem to use the term euthanized like it happens a lot. We have 1,600 bears here in the park. On average, we euthanize 1 to 2 bears a year. Very, very small percentage of our bear population are nuisance bears, or bears that come to people for food. So it's basically, we're managing that very small population and trying to keep those bears as wild as we can. The easiest way to handle bears and manage bears is to close the gate. You remove people from the element, then they can't approach us for food. But we don't do that. We have to find a balance between the two, and that's the difficult part about my job.
Humans have a complicated relationship with predators, especially coyotes, because they are everywhere.
We are in a suburban wooded area. It's probably about 30, 40 acres of land. Houses are relatively close by. This is an area where coyotes are known to be active. So we're heading down to check on a camera that we have aimed at the coyote den for the past several months. Coyotes are extremely adaptable animals, which means that they do very well in rural, wooded areas, but they do equally well in urban, human-dominated areas. Coyotes have been found in Central Park in New York. Coyotes are walking down the main streets of Chicago. So coyotes are everywhere. So we're setting this camera to video mode so that anything that walks by it will trigger activity. Camera will turn on and then get a 15 to 30 second video of whatever's in front of it. Coyotes have a system where there is a male and female alpha pair, and they will mate for life and will continue to produce offspring year after year. Breeding will start sometime probably in December and January. There's a 63-day gestation period. which means the pups are born sometime in the spring. When we first became aware of this den, it made us want to come in here and more extensively set up remote cameras so that we can determine what was going on down here. How many pups came out of this den? Where were they going? Were they still using the area? We formed the Atlanta Coyote Project as a way to educate people, as a way to provide public outreach to let people know about coyote populations, and also as a way for us to gather data to learn more about coyotes in urban populations. One of the interesting things that we have found with coyote populations, particularly here in the southeast, is melanism. In other words, black coat coloration, and that's a very rare phenotypic trait in coyotes. We don't see it out west. It's very rarely seen in the northeast. There seems to be something about that particular trait that is more prevalent here in the southeast. We really feel like we're just kind of scratching the surface right now and hope to go on to do bigger and better things. Coyotes are smaller than wolves. Here in the southeast, the coyotes that we see are primarily between 30 and 35 pounds. Wolves are primarily pack hunters. They live in larger groups. They will rely on larger prey items, whereas coyotes are reliant more on small mammals. And so, as a result, it is in their best interest to hunt by themselves. They're trying to sneak up on small prey and to very quickly capture that prey. We previously have seen evidence of coyotes playing.
We want to see if we can get any coyote pups to play with the balls.
And so we're going to go back and check the footage on this camera to see if it was indeed picked up and taken away by a coyote. This particular area is almost like a watering hole that you might see in Africa. We're in a drought now, but this is the creek behind us. It's usually full of water and running, so we've consistently seen the coyotes using this area. We've seen bobcats walking by here, we've seen river otters, we've seen least weasels, we've seen raccoons, we've seen squirrels and chipmunks, and so a wide variety of animals are using this area, but it also shows us that coyotes are coexisting with these other animals. I often get the question about rabies. Coyotes can carry rabies, but it's a very rare event. So if a coyote does end up with rabies, it more than likely got it from an interaction with a raccoon. So if anything, we should be more concerned about raccoon populations with respect to rabies. I often get asked about the danger associated with pets with respect to coyotes, and again, coyotes are wild animals. Should you be concerned about your small animals? Yes, you should bring your animals in at night. Again, one needs to just exercise common sense and use caution around any sort of a wild animal. People are fearful of coyotes. Mainly, it's the fear of the unknown. Coyotes are naturally very wary, shy animals that really want nothing to do with us.
They're just trying to survive like we're just trying to survive. They're just another organism out there trying to do their best for their families and their babies.
Humans have had a real love-hate relationship with predators for thousands of years. And so the response of trying to get rid of predators can backfire. So trying to trap coyotes, kill coyotes, and get rid of them creates a situation, unfortunately, where there are more coyotes. So we advocate what we call more passive management, and that is trying to limit coyote populations by limiting their access to food. The more food there is available, the larger litter sizes will be. Access to pet food, access to garbage cans, access to compost piles, access to rodents who are feeding around overfilled bird feeders. All of those kinds of things are actions that we can take as humans to try to limit the conflict that might potentially develop between humans and coyotes.
I do have friends that do hear the coyotes, worry about, are they going to attack our children? And I like that I'm able to dispel some of those fears and give some information. And
the families in my neighborhood who were initially nervous about it and were a little bit apprehensive about me going through their backyards and collecting some of this data. But when I collected the data and I showed them the videos, it went from them being nervous about it to them wanting to see those videos every week. They loved being updated. They named the coyotes. They started to get personal with them. They really didn't want them to be hurt or removed. I changed the neighborhood mentality from, we need to get rid of these things, they're gonna hurt us, to, oh gosh, I hope they're okay. Are they eating okay because of the drought? I mean, they're really worried about them. They become a special part of the environment, and they're happy that the neighborhood can facilitate these animals to survive there. There's no worry. There's no worry at all, and you know, they're here to stay. But I mean, just educate yourself, and they're a beautiful animal to watch.